All right, I want to welcome in criminal defense trial attorney Alexandra Kazarian, also former prosecutor, and criminal defense attorney Bernarda Villalona. Thank you both for being here. Alexandra, I want to start with you. What grounds do you think will Murdoch's team likely try to appeal? Do you think they actually have a case?
Well, it was a very circumstantial case. It was like we've talked about the entire time the trial was going on. This was a case of circumstantial evidence. So undoubtedly, they will be making a plea that there was not enough evidence for the jury to find him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. They will do an analysis of every single piece of circumstantial evidence, and they will argue to the appellate court that every single one of those pieces of circumstantial evidence had a reasonable conclusion that pointed to innocence. And because it did, the jury was not allowed to use that evidence, and yet they did. So they will, I'm sure, say that there was misconduct, especially because of the lightning fast verdict that came in. There will be arguments that the jury absolutely had nowhere near enough time to actually consider the evidence. The jury is told that they're not allowed to start deliberating or start forming an opinion about the case until the case closes. So in theory, what's supposed to happen is that the jury doesn't judge the evidence until they get into that room. And then once they do, they start going through the evidence. But it's very, very obvious that that jury had their mind made up at the time. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that's going to be one of the grounds for the appeal as well.
Alexandra, I mean, that takes me right to my second question. Bernarda, this goes to you. There is word that this was the guilty verdict that almost wasn't. If it is true that yesterday's dismissed juror was saying she did not think Murdoch did it, her discussion of that was, in fact, why she was removed. But had she not been, this really could have potentially had a very different outcome.
So in terms of deliberations, so usually courts don't get involved in the actual sanctity of deliberations, because technically with that one juror that, yes, she believed that Alex Murdaugh was not guilty, she didn't have the benefit of deliberating and talking to the rest of the jurors. So I don't think that's going to bear any fruit when it comes to the appeal. When we're talking about the appeal itself, you have to think that every time the defense attorney objected to any questions or materials being brought before this jury, that was them preserving the record as ground for an appeal. So every objection that they made. Now, in terms of, yes, they'll appeal to the court. Will they have much grounds and be successful? I highly doubt it. And why is that? Because Alex Murdaugh testified. And when you have a defendant that testifies, that changes things, because an appellate court can easily decide that, look, it was harmless error. Anything else that could have happened, that the jury made the determination based on your client, the defendant's credibility and believability. In the end, the jury came with the right verdict. They deliberated. The time doesn't matter because they were listening to 6 weeks of testimony and believed that it was strong enough to return a guilty verdict. And that's after deliberation with the 12 jurors that were present.
Well, Bernarda, I want to ask both of you. Bernarda, I'll just keep it with you, though. What do you think was the defense team's biggest mistake here? Wasn't Murdoch taking the stand?
Well, we can say that it was Alex Murdaugh taking a stand, but when you really analyze everything and you take account of the risk of him testifying, he had to testify. And the reason why is because Alex Murdaugh is the only person that could have gave a reason as to why he lied about not being at the kennels. No other witness would have been able to actually answer that. And that was the $1 million question, and also the strongest piece of evidence that the prosecution had. So the defense had to address it head on because it was credible evidence at that. So you couldn't argue that it wasn't credible, that video.
All right, Alexandra, same question for you. What was the turning point, in your opinion, in this case?
I agree that Alex Murdaugh's testimony is going to be the biggest piece of evidence that anybody analyzes in this case, but it's that the defendant testifying is not a defense attorney's decision. So if somebody were to say, oh, the defense made a mistake by allowing him to testify, that's insincere, because it is the defendant's absolute right to either remain silent or to take the stand. It is his decision and his decision alone. And I have no doubt that Alex Murdaugh, being the attorney that he was, being very familiar with this court, with these proceedings, there's no way that Alex Murdaugh was not going to take the stand in his own defense. So that is something that the defense was going to have to work around from the beginning, I'm absolutely sure. But I agree that a criminal defense case rarely gets better when a defendant takes the stand, because even if they are the absolutely most credible person, the prosecution has such power to say, of course they're going to say that. Of course that's what they're going to say, because he's saving his own life and he's lying to you. And mixed with the fact that Alex Murdaugh's defense was that he was a liar, I think it was a hard pill for the jury to swallow, no pun intended, that he lied all of those times, but not here.
Yeah, this certainly is one that a lot of people are still talking about. Alexandra, Bernarda, thank you both. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.